Well, here we are again. Welcome to good character design as well. Just like before, I'm going to tell you why I make these kinds of videos. I want to point out the good or bad characters in films or TV shows. The reason I call it GCD, or good character design, is because I want to focus on how the character is good and how it's developed before the end of the film. What is before and during the film, and sometimes after the film. What goes on in their lives off the screen since they live in their own little world. I don't think I've done a good enough job before, but I will put some more effort than before to flesh out these characters in the series. After all, that's the point of this. Also, the design part of what I'm saying refers to that the way the character functions in the product was no accident. Well, at least up to a point. After all, when someone acts, the expressions may lead someone to think differently than what was intended. Or when someone goes off script, but the filmmakers keep it in because the director liked it. I want to focus on the good design part, the people who put their heart and soul into making the character complex, strengths and weaknesses of the character because of the human condition. Even with characters that aren't human, there are still emotions and have wants and needs. Plus, they were made by a human, if you want to go meta. Anyway, let's get started with this episode after this little introduction. Today I want to look at someone from one of my favorite films. The priest with broken faith, but his soul is saved by the end. The religious psychologist, Father Damien Karris, from the movie The Exorcist. Okay, let's set up some ground rules for this video because I don't want people to get confused. I won't be using references other than the ones from the movie itself. Nothing from the book or original case that the book was based on. The only references I will be using other than the movie itself is what's relevant in the real world. Also, I'm using the extended edition of the Exorcist movie. This is the final version of the film and gives more context of characters. This includes Father Karris, which we are talking about. Of course. In addition, the clips I will be using will probably be from reaction channels to avoid copyright, so bear with me. Before we go over the story of the film and its relation to Karris, we need to discuss who he is first. What I mean is, what does he do and where does he live? Stuff like that. This is so I don't have to explain it later on in the story portion. Damien Karris is a Jesuit psychiatrist of the Catholic Church. What is a Jesuit? I don't really know myself, so let's go to the internet for information. According to Wikipedia, a Jesuit are priests who go where the church tells them to go, no matter the conditions. Said to be like God soldiers or Marines. Before he went to the priesthood, he was a boxer. This could have been in college, high school, or even in his spare time. But by the trophies or rewards, we see the pictures of him being a boxer. It probably was in a public setting and not a private affair. Karris comes from a Greek family background, because his mother speaks Greek as a first language. He used to live in New York City with his mother. That would be my guess, or she had to move there. In any case, because of her willingness to stay in her apartment, it's probably her original home. Now Karris lives in Georgetown, Washington, because of his duties given to him by the church. This is where the exorcism takes place. Since he's a psychiatrist, he must have gotten a medical degree as well. This could have changed his worldview if he went to a secular college. This combined with his weight of his ill and old mother is leading to his loss of faith. We don't have enough information to go through the story and see how all of this could influence him up to this point. I don't want to spoil everything for the character, or there would be less of a reason to go through the story. Some of these points I've made in this section will be repeated in the story section. However, it will be relevant, or it bears repeating. Now on to the story part of the video. Just like in my other GCD videos, I think it's important to start with the first time we see the character in the film. Well, we see Father Karris in a crowd of people watching a production of a movie. In fact, on the film set is one of the actresses who happens to be the mother of the daughter who will be possessed. The movie is taking place on a real college campus. Karris seems to be enjoying the production as well as everyone else. This tells us that he's just an average Joe. This is one of those movies where the priests are mostly just like other people. They just have a different belief system. Karris himself is proof of that, and I will go into that in more detail. The director of said film, named Burt Dennings, tells a little joke to the crowd watching. All of them laugh, showing Karris is not a stick in the mud. But all good things must come to an end. He leaves the crowd and heads towards the church, as we find out later on when the mom sees him after she is done acting that day.
I think I'll walk home tonight, Mike.
Okay.
You take that drop by my house, yeah?
No problem.
So fast.
The reason I point this out is because she will recognize his name and face later on in the movie. She hears Karris' name at the house party she is hosting for the cast members. The next time, when she meets him in person, is to determine if her daughter is possessed. The doctors send her to him when all the scientific explanations and tests fail. The university they are filming at is in Georgetown, Washington, and where Karris is stationed by the church. Unfortunately for him, his mother lives in New York City, which is about 4 hours away by car. Karris, I believe, takes a train that transfers to the subways, as shown later on in the movie when he encounters a bum. Before we go over that conversation between them, we should go over his current situation. His situation being that he doesn't have enough funds to take care of his mother, as he wants to. This could be another reason he takes public transit, because he can't afford a car. Also, it could be a part of Karris losing his faith. Everything is piling on him, stacking on one another. Worrying about his mother leads to a lack of faith because of his money issues, which is because he works for the church. This doesn't mean he hates working for the church. After all, he has made friends in this line of work. Also, he seems to care enough to help others, or he wouldn't have wanted to learn how to be a psychiatrist in the first place. It takes so much time to do that, but that passion is waning now. Anyway, let's get back to the subway scene itself. I believe the subway scene's rather intended or not, is like, well, purgatory. A place in the afterlife that Catholics believe in where they don't know where you belong yet, either to heaven or hell, and the train meaning will take you to said afterlife destination. The bum in the subway asks for help from Karris and tells him he's Catholic, to tug on Karris' heartstrings for money. Again, this could be help from where he knows he's going in the afterlife. Hell. Of course, this is not literal, but this does come back later in the film. After the bum asks for help, Karris does not respond. His face says, I have my own problems. I'm not going to take on yours as well. This is the first hint of Karris losing his faith in God. Well, since Karris is also in the subway, does that mean he is in purgatory? If I think the subway is a place, then in a way, yes. This is throughout the movie, but I will talk about it as it happens, of course. The next scene we see him, he is in the middle of the street in New York City. The neighborhood seems to be poor, a ghetto. In fact, Karris walks past some kids playing by jumping on top of a car. No one seems to even park here because all we see is that one car. In the apartment, it's very dark, but he finally reaches his destination. This is where his mom lives, in this dark and poor place, forgotten by the world.
Embassy, the Imperial, the Regency Room.
Σε μια καταπληκτική κουζίνα.
Ακόμα και φωτογραφικό στούντιο
Μάμα.
με το γραμμήλιο αναμνηστικό άλμπουμ.
Mama.
7-8-7-0-6-6.
As he enters, he puts away his stuff and we see pictures of Karris. Some of them have him as a boxer. Also, we see trophies next to the pictures. Therefore, we can infer there's a lot of these awards are for him boxing. Like I said before in the Who is Karris section, he could have gotten those in school after all. I don't think he got them recently since he has no signs of being hit on screen. No scars, black eyes, or even bruises.
Astoria Boulevard, Astoria Manor, the finest in catering.
16
He walks into the next room and calls for his mom, saying, "Mama," almost in another language, but it's still English. This inflection seems to be different than how he normally talks. Through the rest of the conversation with his mom, he has this dialect. In fact, sometimes they are speaking Greek, and this is the inflection of English they are speaking to each other. When Karris finds his mother, she is sleeping, listening to a radio program speaking in Greek. She doesn't acknowledge her son until he reaches out to her and touches her. When she does notice him, her face lights up with joy and stands up to greet her son, calling him Demi, which is short for Damien. Just from their expressions, you know that they care a lot for each other, a very close son and mother relationship.
Mama.
Το γραμμήλιο αναμνηστικό άλμπουμ.
Mama.
Τι κάνεις, μάμα?
Καλά, Damien. Καλώς όρισες, αγόρι μου, στο
Oh,
σπίτι
how are you,
μας.
Mama?
I'm so glad to
You look
see
good.
you. I'm all right.
How's your
How
leg?
about you, Damien? You are all right?
Fine. Mama, I could take you somewhere where you'd be safe, you wouldn't be alone. There would be people around, you know, you wouldn't be sitting here listening to a radio.
Άκουσα, Ντίμη, δεν πάγω πουθενά. Αυτό είναι το σπίτι μου. You understand me? This is my house, and I'm not going no place.
The mom, named Mary, seems to have English as a second language, but Karris has no trouble speaking English. They ask each other if the other is well, and the mother has a injured foot. She has been asked to stay off the foot until it gets better. She is old and injured and lives in a place, well, like this. The concern for his mother is mounting for the audience and for Karris. Later that evening, Karris is eating dinner, which he probably prepared for the both of them. While eating said dinner, his mother tells Damien that his Uncle John came by recently. Karris asks him when he came by. She says last month. You see, there's a routine of the family dynamic I'm seeing here. The routine being the son Karris sees her mother probably once a week, with it being so far away and him being poor. Because he loves her so much and she loves his son, as seen before. However, her brother Tom probably sees her once a month. Tom seems to have distanced himself from his sister, while her son cannot. We see more of Karris taking direct care of his mother, as he checks her leg and the bandage around it. In a concerned tone, he tells his mother to stay off the leg, so don't go up and down the stairs. She agrees. Karris, feeling more concerned now, says he wants to take his mother to a place where she would not be alone and not just listen to the radio all the time. She responds that this is my house, meaning she will not leave no matter what. This is a more natural response. Again, it must be of the routine of late. She probably says something like this a lot. Karris seems a little frustrated, but lets it go in silence. All she does all day is listen to the radio in the dark alone, and that scares Karris, because what if she gets hurt? After all, she seems 80-something years old, and by the looks of it, frail. Like a strong gust of wind could knock her over. The worry showing on his face and body language, the mother asks him, "You worry for something?" Karris responds with no, as in nothing is bothering me. The conversation continues as the mom says, "You are not happy? Tell me what is the matter?" At this point, Karris lights a cigarette, probably to get the edge off a bit of the current situation in his life. As to refer what the cigarette represents, he denies being worried about his mother.
This is my house, and I'm not going no place. Timmy, you worry for something.
No, Mama.
You are not happy. Tell me, what is the matter?
Mama, I'm all right. I'm fine. Really, I am.
Telling his mother, "I'm fine, really, I am," in a polite way, saying, "I don't want you to worry, so please get off my back." Karris is carrying the burden as any son would at this time. This does feel like a son who feels like he is being talked to like he's 12 years old. To a parent, though, their kids never really grow up enough not to be scolded by their parents. As he leaves for the night, he turns up the radio, leaves money for her, and kisses her on the forehead. The mother is asleep at this moment, so he leaves to go to a bar. He goes to a crowded one at that, and is there to meet an older man, a priest. Also, Karris is holding a drink in each hand, going back to portraying them as normal people. I think the bar is in Georgetown, since he lives there now under the church's orders. The older priest is named Tom, and he seems to be some sort of elder, a priest with more experience. Karris tells Tom his woes about everything that is building up inside of him. Mary's illness and the lack of empathy toward others. First talking about his concerns for his mother. Karris thinks he works too far away from his mother, and if he were in New York, he would be close enough to see her more often. Father Tom is sympathetic toward Karris, so offers him a way he could work in New York. Karris pauses with a worried look on his face and replies that he wants out of this current job. It's no good. Damien is the best they have right now, as Tom says, seeming a little shocked but still straightforward. These are two people that know each other by the way they talk to each other. Tom does not want Karris to leave his current job at the church. Karris seems to carry a lot of weight, and he shares that with Tom, but in a way that doesn't let anyone else take any of his burdens. He says, "Am I?" As he's not even sure about his own skills as a psychiatrist or even a priest. Or it could be that he wants out and he is getting himself an excuse to quit so he can focus on his mother's care. Sometimes he feels he can't help people because, more times than not, it comes down to faith, as he puts it. He can't tell people to do better if he doesn't even have the faith required to change himself. He is afraid that he is losing faith. This is due to his mother's health? It could be a part of it, but also I think it's the world around him that is changing him. Learning about psychology brings you to believe that there not even be a crisis of faith. You just may need to talk to someone, then a prescription pill, and off you go. Even though Karris has a lack of faith, he doesn't quit being a priest. It's like somewhere deep in his heart he knows that he needs to hang on, no matter what his internal logic says. He continues saying he wants out, "I'm unfit," while drinking and smoking. He is trying to lower his stress, but things come to a head with his next words. He just says straight up to Tom what he already knows from hearing Karris all this time. He says in a saddening voice, "I think I've lost my faith, Tom."
And Need reassignment, Tom. I want out of this job. It's wrong. It's no good. And I can't cut it anymore. I need out. I'm unfit. I think I've lost my faith, Tom.
Here's the thing. I wasn't going to put this into parts, but I want to do other projects. Just stay tuned for the part 2 of Karris and other projects, including the Good film series and a critique of Godzilla vs. Kong, the new one. Also, a new channel project, podcast-like thing. More info later on, since we are still ironing out the details. Take care and stay safe out there. Like and subscribe, please.